Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So two pieces of news to cover here, and let's get straight into it. So the first one, the big one, a new book we hadn't heard about yet get announced. It was something that we knew was coming eventually, but this is the official confirmation of it. And a little bit surprising that it's come so soon after the announcement of the Turf Wars Omnibus Edition. Here is the Runes of the Empire Omnibus Edition. So they're getting the Omnibus Editions for the Korra comics out straight away, which I think makes sense given that they have announced, of course, the third Korra comic trilogy is going to be coming, starting at some point next year. Now, immediately, some people are going to be wondering, where does this put the Imbalance Omnibus? I checked. I don't believe it has also been announced with this, so if it's coming, it's probably coming after this, I'm guessing. I'm not really sure what the plan is, but we'll get into that in a second. So, yeah, Runes of the Empire Omnibus, release date, April 11th, 2023. So it was like, November 15th-ish for the Turf Wars Omnibus. So, 5 months later, that's roughly what we would expect. They usually go for somewhere in the region of 4 to 6 months between the omnibus editions, so that seems like a reasonable gap to have, especially considering as of right now the omnibus collection is only 2 books, and we wouldn't be expecting the third Korra comic to get an omnibus until probably late 2024 to 2025, if even that. So interesting that they're making the choice to get these out quite quickly. But anyway, anything else to say? We'll discuss the cover in a second. Compact edition, new cover by artist Michelle Wong. That's great to see. I love her art in this comic, so great that they're getting the artists back to do the new cover. That's fantastic. And then I don't think we know just yet what exactly is going to be done with these omnibus editions when it comes to how much of the extras are going to be collected. Because if they do it the same way that they did the Avatar omnibus editions, this is just going to be a smaller version of the library edition, because all the extras in the Korra books are just at the back, and we got those sort of extras in the Avatar one. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep anything exclusive to the library edition apart from just the size. But let's take a closer look at the cover here. So yeah, we have full, nice, high quality versions of the cover. So we have, of course, Korra in the center, Kuvira directly behind her. That makes sense. That's one of the key dynamics of the book. Asami also there in the background with Sue and Toph also on the cover. I bet the only thing I would say here is that I think Wu probably did enough in this comic to deserve a spot on the cover. I think Wu is a more significant character in this book compared to some of the characters they have on the cover here. I get it in terms of, I suppose, the direct most popular characters, they've made the right decision here, but in terms of representing the book, perhaps maybe not as much. But I love the art. I think it looks fantastic. And yeah, just really, really solid one here. And it just makes me excited for hey, we're getting these Korra reprint comics. But now we know that there are actually new Korra comics on the way also. So that makes it worthwhile. Whereas a lot of the times when we were getting the Avatar comics, we didn't really have much sign of new Avatar comics. So just being in a slightly more positive position makes these all the more sure, I'll grab this, add it to the collection, because we know that from the second half of next year onwards, we're going to be getting the new Azula comic, then we're going to be starting the new Korra comic trilogy, and we also probably should be getting lots of Avatar Studios news next year. So stuff should be really, really exciting when we get a few months into next year. Very quickly, I suppose, on the Imbalance Omnibus and what's going on there. The reason this is a little bit weird is that they seemed like they were following basically a release date order for original release of the comics. So obviously the way it worked was that it went basically Turf Wars, then Imbalance, then Runes of the Empire, But in terms of omnibus editions, they're going Turf Wars, Ruins of the Empire, and then what are we doing in balance after that then? That's a little bit interesting. But the other slight confusion there is that obviously the first 5 Avatar comics, so The Promise up to North and South, are covered in omnibus editions, and there's a spine image across those 5 books. So the 6th Avatar comic, is it just going to be a generic add-on to that? Or do they need time to figure out where they're going with the comics and maybe plan out another spine image, so that's why they're waiting? Whereas maybe with the Korra comics, now that we have confirmation of that 3rd comic trilogy, it will eventually get an omnibus edition. Maybe they know now that they can do, okay, Turf Wars, Ruins of the Empire, Korra comic trilogy number 3, and maybe somewhere in the background they've already roughly planned maybe a 4th one, and they know for sure we'll have the spine image across like this many books, and that's why they seem like they're fully going ahead with the Korra stuff, while maybe leaving the imbalance stuff out on its own. I still think we might see that imbalance book maybe sooner than we think, but it also might just be held up by the fact that they probably have to hold off on doing maybe a more significant Avatar comic until they're maybe more open and willing to talk about what the plot of the new Avatar animated movie is going to be. Because it's going to be somewhat like adjacent to where the comics are. Even if it's a little bit of a time skip ahead, it's still going to be dealing with stuff from a similar era. So I can sort of see why they still don't want the Avatar comics to like directly continue in that way. And that might be what's just kind of holding things back a little bit. But we don't actually know for sure. But just, I know a lot of people are probably going to ask about Imbalance Omnibus. I think it is a product that will definitely come out. It just, we might be left waiting a little bit longer for that until they more figure out a larger sort of trajectory future for the comics. Because obviously with Korra, they're just doing more of the same. We're getting the follow-up trilogy to Ruins of the Empire in the terms of like a 3rd Korra comic trilogy. I don't know if the story is going to be related to it, but it's going to be like the 3rd comic. Whereas Avatar is doing more one-shots, and the one-shots are being treated differently than the comic trilogies. So that's an important sort of distinction to make in all of this. But very happy with this, and again, April 2023 release date. Then there is the new update for the Avatar Legends role-playing game. We have the August update here. My general thoughts on this are that it is mostly positive, but I continue to be very frustrated by their stubborn unwillingness to just give anything that resembles an estimate date. So we'll get into it. So intro and then printing and product update. So here's what we're focused on. We recently heard from the printer and are absolutely thrilled to say that things are moving along well. No real specifics. We're on schedule. Great, but what exactly does that mean? We realize that's not exciting as the book being done. Glad you realized that. But we are beyond excited that nothing is further delayed. Interesting that like them saying this is about the closest we've seen them come to basically just saying for sure that there has been a delay. I get it that their other updates have more or less got that across, but interestingly, they never full-on worded it like that. They've never full-on said that the estimate that we once had is gone, we are now X many months behind, we are now encountering a delay. They just said that like, okay, we're doing things in China, China's not at full capacity, printing has started, printing is continuing, and effectively this update on that front is just that printing is continuing. So they're sort of leaving it up to you to figure out what the delay is, and they're not saying what it is themselves. So it's a combination of like having you figure it all out yourself and then not telling you what exactly the details are. Accessories have shipped out. We should be receiving them soon. They'll share pictures when they get them. So that at least should be cool when we see them. Just a warehouse filled with just a massive amount of all of these different Avatar items. I I wonder what way, when they get, for instance, like the big order of White Lotus tiles, like what way is that just done, and how is that like contained? How many of them are there? That would be a cool one to see, since it's like the smallest item. From there, we'll be waiting on books to send out to you in your packages. So they're just getting across that I suppose they're getting into the mode where they're beginning to think about like, okay, we're getting close-ish to the stuff shipping out. We should have a more solid shipping date for you in our next update. Now, I want to believe this, and I do believe that this probably is finally the time when we will actually get a proper update. But they have more or less said this in the last like 4 or 5 updates, that next update will give you a more concrete answer, and they didn't, and they just moved it on by a month, and then another month, and then another month. So they're saying no more further delays, even though there's been like 5 months of delays effectively. So I want to believe that this is true, probably will be, but their previous track record tells me that this might just be next month they say something resembling this again. Where like, oh, it's not done yet, but it's really close to being done, and when it is done, we'll have an estimate for you. And they just continue and go on and on and on until we're finally shipping it out in like mid-2023. I don't think it's that extreme yet, but that's the way it has felt a lot of the last couple of months. Once we have a solid date, we'll send out an email saying it's time to ship and lock down the backer kit, and just remember to do that. So if you haven't moved, this is basically just, you know, you'll get an email which you will confirm the details that they already have, and that's fine. So that's at least interesting to know. Pre-orders and PDF release. So this has been something that I think has needed to been addressed for quite a while. How can people who didn't back the project buy the PDF? Because it's not like it's available to anyone else at this point. So they've needed to say this for a while. So they want to know about like pre-orders for the PDF. Right now, the PDF releases will be closely tied to when the product begins shipping, which means later this year. And even something as simple as this, the fact that they do the update on basically when it will ship, and they don't say when it will be, but then in the next section that's not related to that, they basically tell you that it will ship later this year. So I don't know why they didn't just in this section very directly say, the new estimate is that we expect it to ship later this year. It's a simple thing. It's a vague general thing that is any point from now until the end of the year. But at least it's something that resembles an estimate. And it's just a weird thing that you can say that here because it's tied to you being able to get more money from people because you'll have the PDF for sale. But you can't just say that to people about the products that they've ordered shipping. There's a little bit of a weirdness about that for me, that, you know, this isn't there. It's a very minor point, but I think you get why I'm pointing it out. Pre-orders will open then, and they'll announce it when this is actually happening. So that's that. Actual play, of course, they've filmed it. It's going to be edited. It has to go through approvals. And then they'll upload it, and then there will also be the campaign that they played will have a bit of extra information. So that I think is also going to be a PDF that we get sent out as well. Virtual tabletop is still in development, and basically more information in the coming months. So that feels like it's quite a while off, but I don't particularly care about it myself. Gen Con went well for them, and that's really all there is to say. So yeah, it's like, it is a more positive update than the last few months, but it's also very similar to the last couple of months, ultimately. They're just making it slightly clearer that maybe next month we'll finally have a date that they can finally clarify what that is. My problem in all of this is just that, like, we want an estimate. Do you know what estimate means? And I get their argument will be that if we say an estimate, people will get annoyed if we don't hit that estimate, even if we make it clear that it is an estimate. But that's the thing. Just make it abundantly clear. It might change. Say way more than you have to do to really get across the point that it's an estimate. It probably will change, and it's not super accurate. Just say something more than you're saying right now. Because the problem is, it still says on the campaign, February 2022 estimated delivery. And I think the only time elsewhere in this whole thing where they've ever said anything that resembles a shipping update is that they mentioned, I think, shortly before the printing stuff happened, that it's more like summer is where we're at. So we already had sort of delayed things even before the printing process into the summer, and now we're even further into another delay, meaning that we're going to be lucky to get stuff before the end of the year. And that's just that they're going to ship before the end of the year. So right now we're 6 months past their initial estimate, but realistically it's still going to be probably another month or two of printing, and then some shipping for them to get all the stuff. So realistically, it feels like for people in, I guess, America, they might have their stuff by, say, like November, December. But internationally, it's probably going to be a little more like the month or two after that. So I don't have too much confidence that like I'll be seeing my stuff anytime soon, but we'll see how it goes. Because I don't want to be too negative on them, because I understand there's a lot of complicated stuff going on in the world right now, and they've addressed that in previous updates. And I like that they're communicating every month. I just wish they'd be a little bit clearer. I think they're trying too hard to sort of emphasize the positives at all points, when it would just be a little bit better in my mind if they were just a little bit clearer about the fact that, okay, hey, we had a few months where stuff was not going right. It was nothing but delays. Not much progress was made. We are well behind. That's where we're at, and this is why it happened. I think masking a lot of it in so much positivity when there really hasn't been too much to be excited for hasn't, I think, really helped things. And again, this is mainly in terms of getting the physical items, like the actual like delivery of the PDFs and stuff like that. I think went very well ultimately, and the actual book in the end is very good. It's just how they've handled the delay to delivery stuff is, I think, a bit of a problem, and hopefully next month fixes it, because I think they just need to have something that makes it clear when it's coming, because a lot of people who maybe don't follow the updates month to month all that much are going to be very confused about what's going on with this, why it's taking so long for them to get their stuff, and that is a bit of a problem. So that's that. And then the final thing I just want to mention, I've said this in a few community posts over the last couple of days, is just that Avatar Trivia number 3 is finally actually going to happen. So the video with the questions and instructions is going to go up on August 20th. It is going to be roughly the Dawn of Yang Chen themed. That doesn't mean every question will be related to the Dawn of Yang Chen, but quite a few of them will be. So again, there's going to be like 11 questions. The typical idea is, of course, you're going to be sending your answers to me by email. All the details will be in the video when it does go up. A few slight changes are that I think I'm giving you guys a little bit more time to answer the questions. Previously, I gave you guys a week. This time, you're going to get from the 20th until the very end of August. So you have like, 4 more days-ish. And then beyond that, the only extra thing to say would be that in relation to the Avatar Legends role-playing game, just because it is not yet available for like sale publicly and only people who back the Kickstarter have it, we will be playing this round of trivia as if the Legends role-playing game doesn't exist. So none of the questions relate to the trivia, and I won't even be accepting answers for questions where actual valid answers to that question is something that comes from the trivia. They won't be considered correct, just to make this as fair as possible to everyone going into this. So yeah, for the sake of Trivia 3, Legends role-playing game won't exist. But once it is out, I guess we can then do more of a role-playing game, kind of lore-based trivia, which is probably what Trivia number 4 will be. So there are just some details on that. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. Surprise quick back-to-back announcements on the Korra Omnibus editions, the new Avatar Legends role-playing game update, and then if you have anything to say about Avatar Trivia as well. But yeah, other than that, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.